Welcome to another SourceFuse Talking Out Cloud, our leadership chat series. And today, we'll be focusing on the topic of optimizing and modernizing on the cloud, the drivers, the challenges, and how organizations might plan for it. If you're unfamiliar with SourceFuse, we have over 16 years deep expertise transforming enterprises through bespoke, secure, and scalable cloud solutions, committed to digital innovation, service excellence, and customer success. My name is Liz Grint, Marketing Manager here at SourceFuse, and I'm delighted to be joined today by Dipak Thekke, Business Development Lead at Amazon Web Services India. Welcome, Dipak.
Hi, Liz. Thanks for having me here. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much.
Thanks for joining us. So let's start by asking if you could tell us a bit about your background and experience, especially around migration and modernizing legacy apps.
Sure, Liz. Absolutely. So, I spent a good part of my professional life with Microsoft. And for the most part of the last decade, I was fortunate enough to be involved in Microsoft's initiatives around helping their customers migrate and modernize on the cloud, on their Azure cloud, which was mostly working with large enterprise customers who were typically running legacy code and legacy infrastructure. So so that was on one side, on the IT side of it. On the other side, the business stakeholders we were talking to, what they were hearing was that technology can somehow magically transform their business. And to some extent, that is true, and there's a lot more to be derived out of technology. But what was happening was technology could be an enabler for businesses to transform. I mean, digital technologies like data analytics, AI, ML, and all of that. So it was a dichotomy, and I was hearing this. On the other hand, you had IT managers who were wedded to their estate, so to speak. And therefore, at the very least, going back to my experience, really gave me a foundational understanding of the promise of the public cloud when it comes to optimizing and modernizing. What are the challenges that come in the way in terms of realizing that promise, which starts right from defining the business value to be had, articulating it, measuring it, all of those things, and most importantly, the cultural transformation that is imperative for customers to extract the best value out of the public cloud. So again, like I said in the beginning, it was a foundational understanding I had, and I am very grateful for having had that opportunity. And that is really, and I'm seeing that day to day now as more and more I talk to customers, that dichotomy is slowly somehow trying to align itself. And that's the way I see forward in the public cloud.
Thanks, Dipak. A lot of experience. There's a lot of customer conversations, all with different needs and wants. So over the years then, in those conversations with customers, what have you seen as being the top business value drivers of the cloud?
Yeah, that's a favorite topic, and it's also one of the most difficult questions to answer, because each person you talk to will give you their own interpretation of what that answer is, or what that business value driver is of the cloud, right? So from my experience working with Microsoft and with AWS, uh, there are 4 or 5 things, right? Broadly, the business value that customers are out to derive from the public cloud can be boiled down to: number one, innovation, the ability to innovate using the innovative technologies at hand, which the public cloud enables. Number two, what I like to call time to market, which is really a combination of agility, and speed. So, to give you an example, I want to build innovative products. Now, the next question is how quickly can I build those products? Because I want to get to market and get to my customers quickly. Otherwise, my competitor will get there, right? So, how quickly can I build those products? Uh, how quickly can I enter new markets? You may not be building a product, but you want to get into a new market, right? A geographical market, for example. Do I have infra that is agile enough to support my needs? Are my applications agile enough? And it goes into some of the modernization pathways we'll talk about shortly, like breaking up your monolith, making your application more agile. So it's a combination of agile and speed. The idea is uh, a business owner is going to ask me or ask anyone who is talking about the cloud, can you tell me how this helps me get to market sooner? Either my product uh, or build a new product sooner or any of those things, right? So that's time to market. And then there's the aspect of performance, which with legacy infrastructure, legacy code, and all of those things, the performance of your application tends to suffer. And again, the public cloud promises great new technologies that can actually help your application perform better. Now, why is that important to the business owner or to the CEO of an organization? Because what technology is done in the back end of IT, it has also done a lot with our customers and consumers, right? Uh, just the explosion of the internet and mobile devices has, first of all, opened up the entire world uh, as a potential customer for a given company, right? So that's an explosion of a total addressable market, if I might use a corporate term, right? Then the explosion of social media channels has also led to new marketing channels, new sales channels for customer acquisition. And this is again, we are talking millions of customers, which before the internet, no company had access to, uh, like, or had a way of growing their business 10x, because now you have access to 10x number of customers, right? So how I relate that to performance is that if you're going to grow that fast or that big, you need your infrastructure to be able to perform at that level. You don't want your website crashing the moment 10 customers land up instead of 5, as an example, right? So that's the performance aspect. And finally, the aspect of cost, which is, as old as business itself. You need to keep a tight leash on your costs, whatever you're doing. And even when you're not doing anything. We just spoke about businesses and enterprises wanting to do a lot of new things and expecting a lot of things from the cloud. But make no mistake, no customer is going to throw money at that. They will invest money, but eventually any proposition that passes muster in an organization has to get the approval of the CFO. And he's going to be bothered, he or she is going to be bothered about how much is it going to cost us, right? And in what fashion. So cost is, perennially one of the most important aspects that we cannot ignore at all, especially in today's climate. Today's economic climates, all the headwinds that we see, cost has become even more important, quite simply. I will now qualify that or be more specific. When I talk about Indian customers, Indian enterprises, even in good times, the importance of cost could not be overstated. And we have to be respectful of that because, that's really what spurs innovation, right? Like they say, necessity is the mother of invention. or more mundane terms in the corporate world, do more with less. That's what it's all about. And Indian customers over the years have excelled at that. And that is, therefore, the importance of cost is very, very high. And no organization should ignore that. I pretty much, yeah, now I've got some technological mumbo jumbo, which I'm not going to tell you about unless you ask me a specific question.
No,
Is that okay, Liz?
yeah, that's lovely, Dipak. Thank you. And you know, it's common, isn't it? Those themes that keep coming back again and again, and it kind of sits under the what's in it for me as well.
Yeah.
So for those 5 key value drivers that you mentioned there, what are the challenges to actually realizing them, to actually making them happen, and how does AWS help overcome them?
So, Liz, this is another obviously the most important area we as technology providers focus on in removing those challenges or barriers to adopting the public cloud and therefore realizing all the business value that we spoke about. Uh, the key challenge, as I see it, and there are multiple challenges. The key challenge, it starts with defining your to be state. When I say we are going to modernize, what is it that you're really achieving, right? Uh, and it goes back to the 4 or 5 value drivers I spoke about. Are you going to be able to say that today my application performance is such and such? We are able to handle, let's say, 100,000 transactions per second. Uh, the important, the most important thing is to be able to say, yes, I want to get this 100,000 to 150. And that doesn't come through easily because the devil is in the details. And when you really, even the business owner or the application owner just sits down and starts thinking about how much should that performance measure really be? Should it be 150? Should it be 125? Or should it be 200? So that's just an example when it comes to performance, right? It's difficult to articulate what you want or what's your end state. And because a lot of the data that you need to define such a thing effectively is not really available in organizations, right? And so that's one. Uh, Even if you do that, now the next thing is, how do I measure whether I've really achieved that, right? So I'm going to talk about, I mean, I took performance, which is still easier to articulate in terms of a number. If I said innovation, I mean, how are you going to go about it, right? Or if I said agility and speed, again, lend themselves more easily to measurement, right? So first is defining your end state in business terms. What am I going to achieve for my business? Second is, how am I going to measure that, right? Because these are the 2 things that will go into your business case, which goes to your CFO's table. So you absolutely need to nail these, right? So that's one. The other aspect, the challenges, right, to going after and realizing the business value is legacy. Like I said, legacy infrastructure. You got a data center, which is, uh, what's the word for that? Depreciated for several years, right? Large companies have old infrastructure, and that works for them in the current world, in their current scheme of doing things. And even if they want to get out of it, they can't till the hardware comes up for refresh because everything is tied up in multiple years of contracts. Similarly, with the software part of it, you have license contracts running into many years. So that becomes a very real barrier, a commercial barrier to saying that, yes, I'm invested, I'm spending so much money, and I'm going to continue doing that for the next 3 years. I can't get out of these contracts. So, should I really be going ahead and investing in something else now? Or do I wait? Right? So that's one. That's legacy contracts, the legacy code. That's a classic. I mean, code that has been built over the years by multiple different developers with different business objectives in mind at different points in time. And those developers are not there, or if they're there, they're not skilled enough to figure out, I mean, how can I change this code? Because technology has changed as well. Coding practices have changed. Everything has changed, right? So that's another big area of challenge, right? Legacy contracts, legacy infrastructure, legacy code, lack of skills, and finally, modernization is not something you turn a switch on, right? It is long, by definition of what it entails, it is long cycle. A lot of time, effort, money goes into it. So you need top-down sponsorship. You need leaders or leadership to be clear in driving an agenda, a close-ended agenda of getting this done and bringing the investments in. And that is again hard to find. Uh, I wouldn't blame the leaders or the leadership. It's always a matter of conflicting priorities, right? And in our corporate culture, I mean, which we all are part of, I mean, we live quarter to quarter. So that's another priority, conflict of priority that you need to balance. So these are some of the challenges I've seen, Liz, in terms of getting ahead and getting the value out of it.
That's really good, Deepak. And I was going to ask you next about how organizations plan for modernization. I know you touched on it a little bit there, and
Yeah.
customers have different definitions of what modernization is. So is there anything else that you could suggest that organizations do to plan for modernization?
Sure. So, yes, I touched upon a couple of those things, but the first and foremost is what I said last, which is top-down sponsorship, right? I'm not going to repeat that, but suffice to say that unless it's an organizational priority right from the very top, it is not going to happen. I mean, if a CEO is going to say, yes, I I need to be able to support 5x growth in number of customers in the next 1 year, maybe 2 years, right? And that is the priority for that company for that year. Then it will trickle down to this to the CIO. We are talking the technology side of it. So comes to the CIO or the head of applications, and then they have a task in hand. How do I enable 5 million customers in 2 years? What I have today is probably going to support a million, right? So that that is, I mean, that is top-down sponsorship along with clarity of purpose. I mean, the CEO might have that objective in mind, which is very important, but the purpose has to trickle down to the CIO in terms of what is it that I need to achieve. That is my to be state, like I mentioned earlier, so that I can enable 5 million customers in 2 years. How should my infrastructure change? What performance metrics need to improve? How much should cost go down? What new products and services should I make available on my platform? All of those things, right? So that has to be clearly defined. The other aspect, equally important, is cultural transformation, right? Organizations need to be ready and willing to change ways of doing things, different functions of the company, but everybody needs to do that, right? I'll start with procurement. Procurement needs to change from a capex to an opex mindset, right? You you're not building infrastructure for the fun of it. You are going to use infrastructure as you need it, as your business needs it. So that's capex to opex. I'm sorry. Similarly, for the procurement person to do that, the CFO needs to be looking at his balance sheet differently or his profit and loss statement differently. You need to, and I'm not an expert in finance. I'm sure there are ways and means of doing that. But if a CEO is going to be, if a CFO is going to be thinking about how much money he's spending every month, then that's not going to work for the public cloud or the technologies that we offer. That's OPEX. It is never CAPEX. So that is finance and procurement. Developers need to be willing to uh, upskill, learn new skills, and leave their passionate old technologies behind. I mean, the technologies they're passionate about. Architects need to be ready to change or rebuild their applications, maybe inside out in a lot of cases, or I mean, start changing it and all of that, right? Adopt new architectural patterns, adopt new technologies and platforms again. So and of course, then there's HR, field enablement. I mean, HR in this respect also needs to acquire talent if you don't have them already, right? And field enablement is again sometimes a responsibility of HR in different organizations. You need to enable your existing people to learn new ways of doing things. So it cuts across functions, right? As I mean, sales and customer facing teams, obviously, they need to be able to uh, deliver or articulate the value of all these technological benefits to their customers, right? So it goes across the board. So one is top down sponsorship, one is cultural transformation. Uh, Getting down to, and it's not easy, right? It's very complicated. It might sound like a lot to do, right? So here's where cloud providers like AWS, I would not just call us cloud providers, cloud native technology providers, which enable all these uh, innovative technologies that deliver business value, and our partners like SourceFuse, right? Uh, my advice to customers is to leverage the resources that people like AWS and SourceFuse bring to the table for them to experiment and learn. They're not going to get everything right overnight, right? So, I mean, what I mean by that is, I mean, as simple as, I mean, the investments that AWS brings to the table, right? Similarly, investments that SourceFuse brings. Uh, and we'll talk about it in some more detail in terms of how we are working together, AWS and SourceFuse in India, and and definitely worldwide as well. But the point is, the advice to customers has always been you have to take care of uh, top-down sponsorship. You've got to be ready to transform and do what it takes to enable that transformation culturally. And you don't try to boil the ocean or transform everything overnight. That's never going to work. Adopt a pilot approach, right? I mean, pick up one piece, probably a low hanging fruit, so to speak. Pick up one application, see how it works, see what business value it delivers, and do that process time and again, and start showcasing it to business owners, application owners, and that's how the the momentum for modernization will grow. And of course, this doesn't apply to. I'm sure there are and there are lots of progressive customers who can skip all these stages. They are already clear and know what to do, right? Then they just utilize our resources and our teams and our skills as they need. That's fine too. Yeah. So this is what I had to share, Liz, in terms
Mm.
of how we we would see organizations planning for modernization and be successful at it.
Yeah, that's brilliant and very thorough as well, because Yeah, I love that expression. Don't attempt to boil the ocean, because it is a big job. But I think you summarized it perfectly there about getting the buy-in, getting that cultural mind shift, and bringing the passion that they once had for old technology, transfer that passion for the new as well. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
So
Yeah.
you mentioned there that obviously we're really proud to be AWS advanced consulting partners. But from your perspective, Dipak, as the AWS business development lead in India, what has your experience been like working with SourceFuse?
Ah, so it's been nothing short of awesome so far, and I'm sure it'll continue. And why I say that is for specific reasons, right? And I mean, after all that has been said about modernization, uh, SourceFuse is one of the few partners I've seen who who gets it, and SourceFuse gets it. It didn't happen like overnight or out of the blue, right? I believe you get it because you've walked the talk, you've done it before, and that is which is rare to find. As I mean, because I guess we know where modernization stands, right? It's early stage. It is going to pick up steam. It'll definitely pick up steam in the next couple of years. But this is early stage. The early adopters are doing it, like I mentioned, some of those customers, right? Uh, so SourceFuse has gotten into the game early, having seen the potential of this, and have done the hard yards, understood what it takes, understood each of the complexities and challenges that we spoke about, and has a credible way of addressing those problems and challenges for our customers. So, and besides that, of course, great energy, great initiative, and it seems like I've never been inside a SourceFuse office. It seems like there's never a dull moment there. So that's very exciting, and that's very nice to know that we have a partner like SourceFuse to drive modernization. So yeah, and of course, the I mentioned the hard yards, immersion days, customer workshops. Again, modernization doesn't happen overnight. It's a lot of hard work, a lot of hours spent with customers. So that is absolutely why SourceFuse is one of my favorite partners.
Oh, thanks, Dipak. That's lovely to say because I think the energy goes both ways as well, and we use a lot of the AWS programs, and they have worked really well for us. So yeah, it's a really great partnership that we have.
Absolutely. Looking forward to scaling it even further.
Yeah, definitely. I have one last question for you, Dipak, and this is a quite a big question. But with all your years of experience and expertise, what would you say your prediction is for the next big thing for further optimization?
Okay, so while I have said modernization throughout our conversation, optimization is, of course, a big element of that and probably the starting point, right? You're looking at what you have, you're trying to make it, you try to define a to be state for your technology or your platform that makes it ready for modernization. So that is the optimization part, right? But without getting into the details of that, the next big thing for further optimization, in my mind, uh, given what I know about cloud costs, the costs that customers incur for running their infrastructure on the cloud, or or to put it more starkly, the cost that the customers incur for deriving business value out of the cloud, which is what we've been talking about, are really high. And this is not this wasn't the bargain. The customers, when they got onto the public cloud, and I'm not talking AWS or Azure or GCP specifically, when they got onto the public cloud, there was an expectation that costs would be low. Somehow, and this is, I don't mind saying it, somehow that has not really panned out for many customers. And therefore, the next big thing for me, which will deliver that cost saving, right? And cost saving would be what I call license freedom, which is really more than 50% of your cloud running costs are going to the software licenses, the commercial software that you're running on the cloud, right? It doesn't come from AWS, it doesn't come from SourceFuse, it comes from various vendors whose technologies you're using, right? So, and why I say that's the next big thing is because with everything said about modernization, the difficulty in defining business value, the difficulty in measuring business value, this is one of the easiest thing to define as a cost saving and measure and articulate a number, right? Because we exactly know how much we are spending on licenses. And if that's 50%, you take that out, that's 50% of your TCO down. So this is, in my mind, quite certainly, quite definitely the next big thing. And I am on a mission to help customers understand that. Because this is low-hanging fruit, quick win, whatever you call it. Once you do this, and this is my favorite statement regarding this, right? If you're doing this, you're going to articulate a dollar saving to your CFO, right? And no CFO is going to say no to that. And in the process, you're getting access to all the good things we spoke about, and therefore the business value they'll deliver. Otherwise, I mean, this is a genuine problem between the CFO and the technology leadership, right? The CFO cannot understand a lot of the benefits that technology leaders talk about, right? And the technology leaders cannot put everything down to a dollar value. And which is why this is the intersection that I hope and I'm personally working towards to make it the next big thing, because that'll deliver immediate value and everybody's happy.
Yeah, well, everyone will love you and join you on that mission, Dipak.
Thank you so much, Liz.
So, Dipak, a huge thank you for joining me today. Really interesting responses you had.
Thank you. Thank you. It was a pleasure talking to you, Liz. And yeah, as you might have noticed, there's the number one, I like to talk, but number two, there's a lot of things to talk about. So
Yeah, and
I
we
hope
wanted
this
to
has
hear.
been useful. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's been wonderful. Thank you. And thanks as well to our audience for joining us today. And you can join us again soon when we'll be back with another Talking Out Cloud brought to you by SourceFuse.